In the age of social media, it feels like every major tragedy comes with two stories. There's the one that actually happened, and then there's the one that goes viral. This is the story of the Idaho murders and how a storm of online rumors created this parallel reality that was, in its own way, just as dangerous as the crime itself. So for 47 agonizing days, the investigation into the murders of four University of Idaho students was basically a black box. No suspect, no weapon, absolutely no answers. And in that information vacuum, a really toxic ecosystem of online speculation just exploded, fueled by fear, frustration, and, the endless scroll. The Moscow Police Department found themselves in this crazy position. They were literally fighting a war on two fronts. One front, obviously, was the physical hunt for a killer, but the other was this battle against a tidal wave of misinformation online. Every false tip, every baseless theory, it was all a drain on resources. To try and get a handle on it, they actually created a rumor control log online. It was basically a game of digital whack-a-mole. They'd try to swat down the most persistent rumors, things that were spreading locally. But here's the thing. As we're about to see, that was a battle they just weren't equipped to win. Because while the police were busy debunking local gossip, a far more sinister kind of story was brewing on social media. This wasn't just a misinterpretation or a garbled rumor. No, this was a deliberate and frankly malicious campaign of disinformation, and it was about to drag a completely innocent person into its web. All right, so let's zoom in on the dark heart of this online rumor mill. We're going to look at a TikTok creator who saw a community's pain and, saw it as an opportunity for self-promotion. This is a case study in how a self-proclaimed psychic detective used this tragedy to build a following and the devastating fallout from her actions. So, meet Ashley Gillard. Armed with a TikTok account and a deck of tarot cards, she basically cast herself as the star in her own true crime drama. She put out a relentless stream of videos. We're talking over 100 of them, claiming she had this direct line to the truth that the police were just too blind to see. But her revelations were something else entirely. She picked a target, Rebecca Schofield, a history professor at the University of Idaho who had the incredible misfortune of becoming the villain in Gillard's made-up story. With zero evidence, no facts, and honestly no regard for the truth, Gillard accused Professor Schofield of having a secret affair with one of the murdered students. It was a lie that turned the professor's life into an absolute nightmare. But the lies didn't stop there. Of course they didn't. The conspiracy just grew and got more and more monstrous with each new video. Soon, Gillard wasn't just accusing Schofield of an affair. No, she was accusing her of orchestrating a quadruple homicide to cover it up. Now, let's get back to reality. The truth? Professor Schofield was a complete stranger to the victims, had never met them, never spoken to them, no connection to the case at all. But in the court of online opinion, that didn't matter. With her reputation being destroyed, she was forced to turn to the only place she could for justice, the legal system. And in the courtroom, fantasy and reality had a head-on collision. On one side, you have Gillard, insisting her tarot card readings were a form of truth that should be, and I quote, legally presumed to be true. On the other side, you have the law, which, it demanded a little more than just a deck of cards. The court found a, quote, complete lack of any corroborating support for her statements. The court's ruling here was a total slam dunk. They found her claims were defamatory per se. That's just a legal way of saying that a lie is so obviously and outrageously harmful, like, say, accusing someone of ordering 4 murders, that you don't even have to prove it ruined your life. The lie itself is the crime. And here's where the story gets really wild. Because the police had dismissed Gillard's claims, probably as just online noise, they never publicly debunked them. And that created a truth vacuum. So who stepped in? The U.S. District Court. The legal system was forced to do the job the police didn't, to officially and definitively shut down a conspiracy theory that should have never gotten that far. So while the internet was just ablaze with these lurid tales of psychic detectives, a much quieter, more methodical story was unfolding behind the scenes. This is the story of the real investigation, the one grounded in facts, not fantasy. And it was about to lead to a breakthrough that would shock everybody. And then, on December 30th, 2022, that 47-day silence was shattered. The arrest of Brian Koberger, a PhD student in criminology of all things, sent a shockwave through the online rumor mill. It just silenced the noise and replaced it with the cold, hard reality of a suspect in custody. When the probable cause affidavit was finally unsealed, it was like a splash of cold water in the face for all the online speculators. The case against Koberger wasn't some soap opera. It was a masterclass in modern forensics, a puzzle solved with DNA, cell phone data, and just good old-fashioned police work. At the absolute heart of the case was the single, microscopic clue, a tiny trace of male DNA on a knife sheath left at the scene. It was a needle in a haystack, but it was enough. Investigators linked that DNA to Koberger with a degree of certainty that is just staggering. It's basically irrefutable.
The wheels of justice turned. The arrest, the evidence being unsealed, the guilty plea, the life sentence. Each step was another nail in the coffin of the online rumors. It was a final victory for the truth. The case was closed, but the scars from that online witch hunt, those are going to stick around.
And so we're left with these two completely different realities. On one side, you have the wild world of online speculation, love triangles, secret societies, conspiracies. On the other side, you have the methodical reality of police work, a DNA sample, cell phone pings, surveillance footage. The tragedy here isn't just the 4 lives lost, but that the search for justice was so nearly derailed by a wave of lies. This whole thing is a huge cautionary tale for our time. In an age where everybody has a platform, the line between fact and fiction has never been more blurry. And as we saw here, when the truth is up for grabs, it's innocent people who pay the price. So the question we have to ask ourselves isn't if this will happen again, but when. And when it does, are we going to be any better at telling the difference between the truth and just a good story?